Sawubona mbukeli sikwamukele kuhlelo lethu lanamhlanje ilungelo lakho it's your right siza kuni bukhoma la kumamba phambili iSABC 1 eMzansi for sure uhleli noma ngcolosi umazikhali ushongololo ngisaba ukulibamba ngithi nje mbukeli welcome to the first live show for the new year sithi happy 2020 more sithemba ukuthi niyaphila futhi niphephile nambukeli kujwayelekile yazi ukuthi abanye abasebenzi bazithole phela sebedidekile uma sebethola ukuthi imali yabo abayithola emva kweminyaka uma phela sebethatha impesheni ayi ingaphansi kakhulu kunale abebelindele lesike esinye isizathu kembukeli sezikhalazo ezibhekene neGovernment Employees Pension Fund namuhla ke sithi nje sithi ukunifakela ukukhanya kulelo daba sanibonani Bukele ukusiza ke ngolwazi phela lokuthi ibalwa kanjani kahle kahle lempesheni yakho uma phela isikhishwa masamukele uBut Brian Kharidza ephelezelwa nguButsmanga Selemeni bobabili mbukeli babuya eGovernment Employees Pension Fund GEPF ngamafishane gentlemen happy 2020 more welcome to it Brian how are you doing this afternoon
I'm great and compliments of the new year
compliments thank you so much Butsmanga welcome to
all right kunjani and happy 2024
thank you so much for joining us so namhlanje Butsmanga sifuna ukwazisisa ukuthi ama complaints eniwatholayo mayelana nabantu abathi le mali le emva kokuthi basebenze iminyaka eminingi yindaba engathi ifike ngathi isifike yanciphiswa lapha kancane osichazela ukuthi ibalwa kanjani le mali
thank you very much you'd recall even in our last show there was a caller who made an inquiry saying that what she saw on a benefit statement prior October 2022 and post 1st November 2022 were two different things which indicated that her money is not growing but going down. Now what members of the GEPF needs to understand is that we have two formula that we use to calculate different modes of exit. And we hope that today we are going to be clarifying on these two formulas that are used to calculate when you exit the fund. And this will then clarify why it would seem that what they see on their benefit statement and what they get seems to be different. But it is a simple, explainable thing. It's a question of formulas that are used to calculate when you resign and a different formula that is used when you retire or a formula that is used when you retire with less than 10 years.
Okay.
So my colleague Brian will take them through all those formulas and how they impact on your bottom line or the pension benefits that you get. Yeah.
Okay, but Brian, I mean, we understand ukuthi there is two formulas njengobesho Butsmanga. Please explain to abantu benu ukuthi ni calculate kanjani le mali pension and what are these formulas called actually?
Okay, so what we're referring to are the actuarial factors and put in simple terms, it is a rate that we use to convert the pension that you're going to receive in the future when you retire and express it as a one value, as a lump sum in today's terms. So if you think about it, what the GPF is promising you, they are telling you that for every year that you work, when you reach the future and you retire, you're going to receive a pension for the rest of your life. Now what then happens is you might decide to leave the GPF before you reach that retirement age. It would be a bit unfair to expect you to wait up until you reach retirement age before you start getting those benefits. So as a compromise, we then say, what should we give you today to compensate you for all these benefits that you're going to get in the future? Now, to be able to do that, we need a rate, and that rate is what we call the actuarial factors. And these rates depend on your age, They depend on your salary and so on as well.
And also time that you've actually been contributing to GEPF, right?
Yes, exactly.
All right. So now ngicela usichazele Botsmanga ukade uqale lana ubuyibeka kahle le ndaba ukuthi umehluko uqala lapha when somebody is going to do a resignation versus umuntu othatha ipension yakhe at retirement age.
Yes.
What are the determining factors there?
Yes, what Brian has just explained is when a member resigns, like what you have just explained is that we have set aside your money based that you would leave when in future when you retire.
Yeah.
But if you resign, it means you want your money now. So we have to use actuarial factors to calculate your money as in now. What is the value of your money now rather than in future?
Okay.
Whereas for a person who is going on retirement with 10 years or more, the formula that is utilized is the number of years you have been contributing to the GEPF or your pensionable service multiplied by your average salary over a period of 2 years, your last 2 years in your employment. That's the average salary, your last 2 years in your employment.
Okay.
So those two formulas are then giving you different results depending on the mode of exit. If mode of exit is retirement, normal retirement at 60 or at 65, it's simple. How many years have you been contributing by your average salary over a period of 2 years? But if you resign, it means you want your money now, and therefore a different formula utilizing actuarial factors is what is used to calculate the current value of your money.
All right. And then, Brian, when it comes to that calculation, how do you then determine how much one gets based on whether it's the number of years or how long they've been with the actual scheme?
So the overriding principle is we're trying to give you a fair value of what you're expected to get in the future. As you're aware, we cannot predict the future, so we need to make assumptions about what is going to happen in the future.
True.
So we make assumptions of how much your salaries will increase by from now up until you are expected to retire. So that's a guess or an assumption that we have to make. We have to make an assumption of how much the fund's investments will earn over time. We have to make assumptions about how long you're going to live, because that determines how long you're going to receive a pension payment. Now, based on all these assumptions, we've got clever people who calculate and make these assumptions for us. And then once we have those assumptions, we then determine what rate to use to convert every pension payment in the future to give you a value today.
Okay.
And that process is done by our actuaries who are appointed to do that. All
right. So where does the SARS factor, does it have any effect on the actuarial interest factors here?
No. So taxes that does not determine.
It's a different entity
it's a different
altogether.
issue. So your actuarial factors are used to determine what we call your gross benefit. And then after we have determined whatever is due to you, then SARS can get involved and decide how much tax they take from that.
All right. And then, Botsmanga, I mean, where are you getting most yama complaints when? Is it labantu abafuna ukuthatha imali yabo manje labesithi ba resign versus labantu vele aba retire? Where are you getting the most complaints from your members?
No. From that question, I think what was wrong about that question was to imply that reduction in actuarial factors affected each and every portion of her benefits.
Yeah.
Retirement benefits, death in service, including resignation.
Okay.
But what Brian has just explained is that these actuarial factors are only utilized when you resign or when you go on retirement with less than 10 years. So if any member looks at their benefit statement, all other portions are going up. What has then been reduced on the 1st of November 2022?
All right, hold that thought, Botsmanga. I need to take a quick ad break because Mbugeli kumele siyobhadala izikweletu. We're coming back shortly after this. Remember, I'll be opening the lines shortly after this. Do stay with us. This is Yilungelo, Lakho.
This is your place to ask and know. And I'll help you make sense of it all.
Pfunzo ndiyayifuna nga maanḓa ende ndo hula ndi tshi tenda uri pfunzo ndi ḽone ḓenje mara zwa zwino ndi tshi khou vhona uri pfunzo ai khou nshumela ende ndi khou vhona vhaṅwe vhathu vhane vha khou bvela phanḓa vho dzula vha songo funzea.
I-qualification ṱhangu i sa tou vha na vhundeme i songo vha hone ngori a zwi zwavhuḓi uri u ite qualification mara i fhedzi u songo shumela matshelo zwa tshi nga ndo fhedza tshifhinga tshanga
nga musi ndi a sa khou wana mushumo ndo mbo ḓi zwi vhona uri nda sokou dzula a huna tshine tsha ḓo tshimbila nda ri tsha khwine ndi u isa phanḓa na ngudo dzanga ngori ndi a zwi ḓivha uri nda ita masters ndi vha ndi khou ḓivulela zwiṅwe zwikhala u fhirisa musi ndi tshi tou vha na degree yeyo ya honors.
Hu fanela vha na mishumo ine ya fhaṱiwa nga riṋe sa muvhuso ine ya vha i tshi khou kona u itela dzi internship dzine havha vhane vha bva zwikoloni vha fanela u kona u dzhena kha dzi department na dzi masipala vha ita internship uri vha kone u vha na uri vha na tshipirioni.
Kwamukele futhi izingcingo zethu ke mbukeli sezivuliwe manje ukuthi nawe phela ubambe iqhaza la ohlelweni siphethe i-GEPF mbukeli uyazi ukuthi we are working in partnership nabo ukuthi bakwazi ukuthi basize nina ama members wabo ukuthi to better understand your pension benefits nokuthi kahle kahle isebenza kanjani lento ola namhlanje udaba esilidinga idawu mbukeli ukuthi how do they calculate ilump sum oyitholayo uma ngabe wena uya resign noma futhi uya retire ungashayela ucingo 011-714-0671 alternatively 011-714-0672 ngasithumela iWhatsApp 060-844-9857 alternatively send us an email ku consumer@sabc.co.za or interact with us on Facebook mbukeli. My guest today upot Brian Karidza alongside upot Smanga Selemeni, both of them babuya lapha e-GEPF. So upot Smanga, before siye ekhefini besifuna ukunderstand ukuthi kahle kahle ikhikha ini nini lento ekuthiwa i-actuarial interest benefits. Is it umuntu uma mhlawumbe uyahamba uya retire noma uya resign?
Okay, ithindi icacise in this way.
Yes.
Le actuarial interest factors ikhikha in only if umuntu resigner or ethatha umhlala phansi ana less than 10 yeminyaka.
Okay.
Esemsebenzini. Because mauna 10 or more years sisebenzisa a different uya kwi retirement.
Yes.
Sisebenzisa a different formula to calculate. So now what Lobeka Ikola was asking about,
yes,
was about imali yakhe le abona ingati iyehlile
yebo
on November 2022. Leyo mali iyehliswe ngokuthi in November 2022 a new actuarial interest factor was introduced,
yebo,
which then indicated, because remember these actuarial factors are calculated at least every 3 years.
Okay.
And as and when they are done in at least every 3 years, they can either go up or go down.
Okay.
So in this case, the one that were done in 2021, they had then been reduced by minus 14%.
Okay.
That is why then in relation to the benefit statement, if members look at their resignation benefit, they would realize that they have been reduced by 14%.
Okay.
It is because of the implementation of these new 2021 actual interest factors.
Okay. Do you ever update our members when ngale mshika Putsmanga, because it seems like njengobusho we're referring to a caller lo wesifonele last year lo webuza ukuthi kwenze njani ukuthi imali yakhe ifike ngathi isibancane kunalena ayibona on the overall statement engathi uyena azoyithola.
The process is in this way.
Yeah.
These actual interest factors were finalized in March 2021.
Okay.
Between April 2021 up until October 2022.
And the members are aware?
Yes, we're doing consultation with their unions which
Okay.
are represented at Public Service Coordinating Bargaining Council. Once that consultation has taken place and their representative have agreed to the implementation, that's the only time we'll implement. Hence,
Oh, I
they were
see.
concluded in March 2021, only implemented on the 1st of November 2022
Oh,
to allow that
okay.
consultation.
Oh, okay. So maybe that's where ilokuzane ama complaints actually arose from, because people didn't understand ukuthi iqhamukeko. Brian, we were talking just while we were off air that, you know, there's a difference when somebody is going to receive a lump sum versus the actual retirement fund. Please take us further into that discussion.
So if we go to the basics of the GPF,
Yeah.
what we are promising members is a pension that is payable for life. And whenever that promise is compromised or broken, or when a member comes and says, I actually want to leave the fund, but I'm not going to wait to receive a pension, we have to pay you a lump sum.
Okay.
We have to pay you one value. And the only way we can determine that one value is if we have a factor that can convert all these future pensions that you're going to get into a value in today's terms. And that's where our actuarial factors come in. And like Butsmanga mentioned, the actuarial factors are updated once we've concluded each statutory actuarial valuation. And the GEP law says we have to do a valuation at least once every 3 years. So
And why do they need to be changed, Brian?
because your outlook for the future changes.
Okay.
So if you ask someone in 2018 what they thought was going to happen, though they predicted something different to someone who, if you ask someone now, the outlook for the future changes.
Okay.
When we did the 2018 valuation, the economy at the time was in a different space.
Okay.
And the returns, or the investment returns that the fund expected to make, were lower than what we expected when we were in 2021.
Okay.
The salary increases that were expected to be granted to members were slightly higher than what it was in 2018. And then the combination of these changes in these assumptions or in this outlook is what leads to the change in the actuarial factors.
Okay, so inflation basically does play a role ukuthi amalokuzana when these factors are actually applied.
Yes, so it's mainly inflation and the investment returns that we expect to make on the monies that you pay to the fund.
Butsmanga, how long has this formula being used?
Look, it has always been there, except that it started to be implemented in 2004 or 2014, Brian? 2004. 2004.
Okay.
So between 1996, when the GPF was first established, up until 2004, it was never in use. It started in 2004. And the current situation where it dropped, the actuarial interest factors dropped between 2004 to date. It's only in 2014 and now in 2021.
Okay.
So that is why it became a concern from members.
Yeah.
Because ayivamanga ukuya phansi.
Oh, I
ihlala
see.
ikhuphuka. So unfortunately, and every time maya phansi, will then have to explain to them ukuthi why it looks as though your resignation benefits have reduced.
Okay.
It is because of that function of actuarial interest factors when they are calculated.
Okay. And then, Brian, what has been its history as well as impact on our members, especially our pocket wire? Has it always been, uti only this time it actually went down?
Like Butsmanga mentioned, I think it was 2014 and 2021, that's when the factors were reduced.
Yeah.
It's also important to highlight that when factors are reduced, we're not reducing your benefits per se.
Okay.
It's what, if you look at your benefit statement, you will notice that your retirement, what you would get as a pension, if you were to stay up until retirement, it would be a higher value. But what it translates to in today's terms is what reduces. And it's reducing because there's a change in the assumptions. But if you were to stay with the fund up until retirement, you notice that your pension will always increase. So it's a matter of translation. That's the main issue. And it's unfortunate that whenever the factors are reduced, it means people see a lower benefit on their benefit statement.
And
it
what would
obviously
happen if it
raises
was
alarms.
abandoned, Brian?
it then becomes tricky because it means we won't pay you your fair value.
Okay.
So in our previous communication, we shared an example of a cow. So if, let's say, you have a cow and it's priced at 5,000.
Yeah.
And if we then say, okay, we're going to pay everyone a cow, 5,000 for the cow, what can then happen is that the market might change. Maybe a cow is now 6,000.
Yeah.
If we keep paying you 5,000, we're actually underchanging you.
True.
Or the opposite can happen. Maybe there are so many cows and it's now 4,000. If we keep paying you 5,000, we're overpaying for that cow.
Okay.
So if we do not change these factors, we stand the risk of either undercharging you, or underpaying you or overpaying you. And if we overpay you, it's at the expense of those who are staying in the fund.
All right. Okay. I nezwa ke babukela ukuthi kuthiwa le benefits kahle kahle it's for nina so that bangani short change futhi ningakhali ngokuthi ban underkhokhela or they underpaying you. All right, it's time for another quick ad break. Imbukeli izingcingo are wide open. We're back shortly after this.
This is your place to ask and know. And I'll help you make sense of it all.
This is Yilungelo, Lakho alongside GEPF. Mbukeli sikhuluma ngokuthi impesheni yakho uma uyithola usubone ngathi wena encane kusuke kwenziwa yini lokho ngoba phela wena usuke ubheke ilamsam lenkulu oyitshela ukuthi uzoyithola kanti cha bayasho ke ama guest wami namhlanje ukuthi kunezinto ezenziwayo ukuthi ba calculate le mali ozoyithola yingakho ke uBud Brian Karidza kanye noBud Smanga Selemeni behleli nami la e-studio bezama ukuthi basidingidele basichazele ukuthi kahle kahle calculator kanjani le mali so that when you don't feel short change. 0117140671 alternatively 7140672. WhatsApp us 0608449857 consumer@sabc.co.za. So Putsmanga was just asking now and wayibeka kahle yazi Mrs Sekefini ukuthi if mina ngiyimember ukuze nje ngingalwi nani because ngibone lesamba semali ngathi ngizothola imali eningi, wouldn't it be better ukuthi nje ubabonise ku statement ukuthi nansi majali imali ozoyithola mawuqeda ukuretire usuna 60 and uyichazile kahle ukuthi kunamanye ama benefits lapha usichazele baba?
Yeah, wonke amalungu e-GPF on demand and at least twice a year bathola i-benefit statement ephuma kwi-GPF. Kule benefit statement it shows 4 things. It shows imali ozoyithola if you go on retirement at the age of 60 or between 60 and 65. Ikubonise ne 1/3 or ilump sum yakho kule mali le izwamalini. Say for instance une million bazokubonisa ukuthi ilump sum yakho izoba yi-333,000.
Okay.
Mawuya kwi pension.
Yeah.
Bese futhi iyakubonisa ukuthi should you die while in service abantwana bakho bazothola malini. Kweso statement.
Okay.
Sina 4 sections. And then ikubonisa futhi nokuthi if resign malini le uzoyithola.
After certain amount of years obviously.
Yes. So all those amounts are stated in that benefit statement. Yeah. So that's what they see. We do not surprise you at the point when you when you exit. The only issue which you touched on earlier on is that those amounts are not taxed.
Okay.
As they are reflected.
Okay.
There. So depending on your tax affairs with SARS, then that money will then have to go via SARS. SARS take what is his, and then it gives you the rest.
Okay, and please elaborate on that, Putsmanga, because a lot of people are confused. Bacabanga ukuthi inina le mali onjengobuthi ilamsam abazi ukuthi iSARS kusamele nina ninikeze iSARS le lamsam entenzobakhokhela yona, and then iSARS kube yona ethatha leyo tax baba.
Ndiyasaba andisebenzeli iSARS, but all what I can explain, this is the reason.
Yeah.
Because umuntu angabuza ukuthi I've been working paying tax, why when I retire I'm also taxed?
Exactly.
Here is the situation. When you are working, you are actually paying a lesser tax in the sense that your contributions sizithatha before uSARS adonsi tax yakhe.
Okay.
So if bofaneke uSARS akutaxe kwi-10 rand, mase sithathe i-3 rand yethu, uSARS ukutaxa kwi-7 rand, ubona i-7 rand yethu. So it means ama contributions akho were never taxed. That is why masukubhadala what is due to you in terms of benefits, we need to report it to SARS so that SARS can then take what is his, because all the investments that we've been making were not taxed.
Okay.
So if throughout your working life, say you were supposed to pay 36% your tax, and because you are taxed only after you have paid your contribution, you'll probably realize that you've been taxed at 28%, which was a benefit to you.
Yes.
And then that is why then before Sukbadala, we need to report you to SARS so that SARS can then take what is his.
Has there ever been a case ukuthi umuntu hlampe nimbhadale? This is just speculation, and I'm curious, but ukuthi hlampe nimkhiphela yonke le lamsam yakhe and their tax affairs were not in order. Abuye umuntu athi hawu but ningikhiphele u-30,000 sekubuya manje sekubuya u-2,500 neSARS ithi ngisabakolota futhi.
Unfortunately, what happens between yourself and SARS, it's not our involvement.
Okay.
Tina will show you ukuthi we are going to give you $1 million, and then we reported it to SARS. Because of your problems with SARS, when SARS issued out a tax directive, will say lo unkolita 950,000. So nginikeni le 950,000 nimnike i-50,000.
Okay.
So
all right.
we do not have control over your tax affairs with SARS.
And maybe just on that point, Brian, I mean, so you would encourage your members to then also be aware that, also check ukuthi their tax affairs are in order so that it does not affect lump sum once they receive it.
So the wise say death and taxes are certain. So but yes, we do advise members to ensure that they are up to date with their taxes so that they get less of a surprise from the taxman whenever they get these lump sums.
All right, and then Brian, I mean, does this mean that if a member then wants to exit GEPF or terminate their membership, they should first check if they are actually on the right side of actuarial interest factors at that particular time? As we were discussing earlier, Uguti, it's always in fluctuating according to iskati and whatever is happening at that time.
So strictly speaking, you can't exactly time it.
Okay.
Because currently it's not legislated when you change the factors.
Okay.
But what is required is you first undergo a consultation process. So we cannot say with certainty that the next factors will be changed at the same date at which, or in the same month at which we changed the previous ones. So it would be difficult to advise members that it will change at this point in time. So they cannot exactly time it. But what we just reiterate is even if the factors are changed, we are paying you your fair benefit.
So then, isn't this similar to timing when the best opportunity is to actually sell a house versus buying a house?
Not quite, sort of, but this is more like buying a ticket.
Okay.
Let's say you buy a bus ticket or a plane ticket, and you're only going to travel at a later date. The ticket price might change. But once you already have the ticket in your hand, it shouldn't matter whether the price has gone up or down.
Okay.
You've already secured your ticket. So something similar happens here with the actuarial factors, where if you resign before the factors are changed, the factors might change and might be higher. But at the same time, they might go lower. So it's you can't exactly time it.
Okay.
What is important is whenever you leave, we're assuring you that we're paying you your fair benefit.
Okay. All right. My lines are wide open. Call us, tweet us, Facebook us, do something. How is your pension benefit actually calculated? We're back shortly after this.
Challenges at various ports of entry to South Africa, such as long queues, continue negatively.
Thousands of individuals attempting to enter the country illegally.
Well, the conflict in the Gaza Strip continues to escalate.
Breaking news, the Transnet Freight Rail CEO, Siza Mzimela, has resigned.
TFR is indeed the heartbeat of the Transnet business, and since Siza Mzimela started running it in April 2020, it has really not performed.
We are expecting that Zandile Mshololo, that is advocate for accused number 5, will be concluding her cross-examination of Constable Sizwe Zungu.
Well, the trial of 4 men accused of killing former ANC Youth League Secretary General Sindiswa Makaka will resume in the Pietermaritzburg High Court.
We take you behind the scenes of the industry.
From new breakthroughs in science and medicine.
And introduce you to some of the big players that are shaping the future of technology.
We need a human-centered, evolution. We should use this 4IR to advance people, not to disadvantage people.
To the latest gadgets and apps that are revolutionizing the way we live our lives, this show is the go-to source.
Catch Network every Saturday at 8 p.m.
Welcome back. Ibalwa kanjani imali yempesheni yakho uma phela wena usuzothatha umhlala phansi mbukeli, because a lot of you have been saying ukuthi le mali eniyibona kwi benefit statement njengoba esho uButsmanga ayifani nale okhokhelwa yona ke. Bayachaza ukuthi oSARS nabo kumele ke bathathe imali zabo bona kodwa bakunikeza le mali ekufanele ekumele bakukhokhele yona. Hayi mbukeli bathi abadlali ngawe neze. Ingcingo zami are open 0117140671, alternatively 7140672. Ngisahleli noBot Brian Karita alongside uButsmanga Selemen. So Brian, we're just talking about how people actually get confused around the defined benefit. Please elaborate.
So let me start off by explaining a defined contribution.
Yeah.
A defined contribution is easy to understand. You pay contributions, whatever they grow to with investment returns is what you get as a benefit.
Yes.
Now, when it comes to defined benefit, it's slightly different. You still contribute, but when you contribute, that money is not being set aside as a benefit for you. Each contribution you're making is purchasing a benefit, and this benefit is payable in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And if we were to try use an example, you can picture it as buying a cow at each point. So each time you contribute, you're getting a cow. You're getting a cow.
Okay.
Now what happens when you leave or when you resign or when you're about to leave the fund? What we pay you is the value of all the cows that you've bought. Now we cannot determine in advance what the price of a cow is going to be, because it depends on market values. Maybe the price has gone up, and then you find that you'll be paid a higher amount, or the price has gone lower and you get paid a lower amount. So that's what happens with actuarial factors. When the assumptions about the future change, those factors change, and it then affects what you get paid as a resignation benefit today.
And then Butsmanga, then maybe awusichazela ukuthi lento kahle kahle affecta obani, and then what would be your advice to bona laba ba affectwa ilama lokhuzana ama actuarial interest factors baba?
Yeah, njengoba besesi explainile.
Yeah.
I formula esisebenzisayo zi2.
Yebo.
Le yama actual interest factors isebenziswa nje kulabo abaresignayo.
Yebo.
Nalabo abaya kwi-retirement with less than 10 years of pensionable service. So even now, statement sakho as it is, it will show that those two values have reduced by 14%.
Yeah.
So abantu abanjalo sometimes mawufuna ukuhamba usuka ungena choice ufuna ukuhamba, therefore unfortunately it will be within that period when the interest factors have gone down. So just be aware of what is at any point when you are making that decision. If it's around, if it was you were just leaving because boso cartel ungasafuni nix, you may want to postpone it until such time those interest factors are favoring you or have gone up.
Okay, so you do have the option yokuthi uyibeke Butsmang ungayikhiphi at that particular time. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
If uhamba ngoku sikunika yona ngoku.
Okay.
But if ukuhamba kwakho, it's about you wanting to leave for leisure, for the sake of going to sit at home and do nothing, you may want to postpone that resignation and continue working until such time the actuarial interest factors have gone up and are favorable to you.
And how would I know?
No, we release them every after 3 years, like Brian was explaining.
Okay.
So it might be that come 2024, the one that will be done in 2024 will be different from this one that went down by 14%. We don't know, like Brian was saying. So you might want to delay it because currently they are unfavorable to you who wants to withdraw now and leave now.
But then, Brian, that begs the question, if the situation then changes for the better, what will happen to those who left when the times were hard?
Again, now we'll use the example of either the cow or the ticket. You already bought the cow at that price.
Yeah.
You can't then come back and say, but it is now cheaper than when I bought it. It's a timing thing, and it cannot be, we cannot be predicted with certainty.
So then, what is your actual overall advice to your members who are currently struggling with the definitions and understanding what we've basically been trying to decipher today, Brian?
Always look at your benefit statement, and the number one advice is, if possible, stay with the fund.
But the contention is, if I'm looking at my benefit statement, it's showing me a lump sum that I'm not receiving when I'm getting a payout.
You have to stay with the fund until retirement. That's your best protection.
Okay.
Because that's what the fund guarantees you. Your biggest guarantees are if you stay with the fund until retirement. If you leave the fund before retirement, you then become subject to these changes and assumptions. And we as the fund cannot protect you fully against that.
Maybe add on that, Butsmanga, because I think our members need to be encouraged to it is better ukuthi nithathe imali yenu upon retirement, because uzo affecteka iwo wonke lama interest rates nama factors what uma wena ufuna ukhipha imali yakho singakafika isikhathi engabe uyayeka uchile up until uzofika ku retirement.
That's exactly my advice. We are a pension fund, a retirement fund. We are not a resignation fund.
Yes.
So that is why from time to time we'll always make sure that our primary role is retirement. So we'll always put resources and everything towards retirement so that our members, when they go on retirement, they go on a comfortable post-retirement life with income every month for life. But if you resign, you are saying to us, I have won lotto or I have some greener pastures somewhere. So we cannot predict that for you. We give you what we calculate now and then give it to you for you to manage on your own.
All right. And then, Brian, so basically, if you had shares, let's just making a side note here, if you had shares of a company and then you decide to sell them when the share price has gone down, would you be entitled to anything if the shares has gained value after you've sold them? And the answer is
no. You've sold your rights. They're no longer yours.
All right. So then what would you, let's talk about some of the other things that your members need to know when it comes to how you actually calculate your actual interest factors.
So it's whatever benefit we pay you, we consider your average salary, as Butsmanga mentioned earlier, and your period of service. So when we're looking at the benefits that are payable before you retire, we have two sets of actuarial factors. There are those that are applied before you reach the age of 55 and those that are applied once you are 55 years or older. They work on similar principles, but it's two different sets of actuarial factors.
Okay, all right, Mbugeli, let's take our last and final break. We're going to be wrapping up the show. I still have those lines open, but we're back shortly after this. Wind down.
non-profit organization Doctors Without Borders is in the Eastern Cape province.
Doctors Without Borders are here to launch a 5-year partnership in an effort to address the issue of non-communicable diseases.
Parliament's Ethics Committee has found 2 senior politicians guilty of breaching the Code of Ethical Conduct.
The mood is very somber here at the military base, where 6 members of the National Defence Force, South African National Defence Force to be precise, perished.
French troops will begin to withdraw from Niger.
The International Monetary Fund says 2023 has been a difficult year for activity in the sub-Saharan African economy.
I want to still add value. I want to contribute. I think I still have energy. And with my commitment to serve the people of this country, I feel like I need to find a way and go and serve somewhere else. Because here I've already tried my best, but I feel like I reached a ceiling. So I opted to call it a shot because I was just scheduled to go for an interview to be re-elected to Parliament or legislature. I decided, no, I'm not feeling like I can continue doing it, and I decided, let me call it a quit.
Final segment sisahleli ke ne-GEPF mbukeli. We're trying to help you understand ukuthi kahle kahle lo lamsam ye pension yakho uma usuyithola wena i-calculator kanjani, because a lot of you have been saying siyacela majali njengoba i-GEPF ibhizi lapho isebenzisana nani, but indaba ukuthi kwi-member statement sami ngibona ilamsam engaka, yet mase kumele ke ngiyokhipha leyo mali noma ngiyithole ngiyithola isincane kakhulu. My guest today ubut Brian Kariga alongside Karidza alongside uButsmanga Selemeni bobabili mbukeli bavela lapha ya GEPF. All right, so Brian, we're still discussing the need to knows for your members as we're about to wrap the show. Ngizonikeza nawe Butsmanga i-chance yokuthi usitshele mhlambe enyini added advice ongayinikeza amalokhuzana ama members wenu. Let's go, Brian.
So the first indicator is always be aware when there's a statutory actuarial evaluation. We've already said it has to happen once every 3 years. The GPF does release a media statement once evaluation has been completed and accepted. And from there, members can then start, and it's a publicly available document. They can read through it and see what factors have been proposed.
Butsmanga, are there ever any chances of mhlambe ukuthi kube nama miscalculations or some fraudulent transactions gula calculations ama actuarial factors, Bab?
No. They aren't.
Okay.
Because if...
So the system is resolute.
Yes.
It calculates and yes. Calculate. There is no room for error there.
You are allowed, in case you are having a problem with what you have received, you are allowed to request for a recalculation. And then
that's
we'll take you through how we calculated up to where you are. The only mistake that is done by members is this one. That they want to compare that I started the same year with Brian.
Yes.
Why is Brian getting 1 million and now I'm getting 500,000? Forgetting Uguti, Brian got promotion and was earning at a particular salary, while now I'm earning at a particular salary. So that is why when you look at that formula, it's saying years of service by your average salary over a period of 2 years. So if you are not on the same salary scale, you will not necessarily get the same, even if you started at the same time. Because 35, let's make this example.
Yes.
A 10 by 350.
Yes.
And a 10 by 450 are not the same.
I find true.
Exactly.
And then in terms of a very interesting point that Butsmanga is raising here, Brian, that you actually do have, the leeway to actually come and inquire for a recalculation. So maybe take us through that process. How does one actually launch a complaint or a request for a for recalculation? Let me quickly take Patrick from Krugersdorp before you answer that. But Patrick, sakwamukela baba ohlelweni singakusiza kanjani namhlanje?
Yebo, kunjani?
Ngiyaphila nsizwa wena?
Ngikhona.
Singakusiza kanjani baba?
Bengicela ukubuza ukuthi i-pension yami izo-affecteka kanjani njengoba ngiya ku-divorce and then izobalwa kanjani njengoba ngiya ku-divorce. Ngina-10 years age and manje angazi ukuthi kuzoyenzakalani after.
Oh, okay baba. We are with divorce but awukaka-resign angithi emsebenzini and you are not retiring.
Hello?
Ngithi uya with divorce kuphela, you are not retiring, you're not resigning, right?
I'm not retiring, I'm not resigning, I'm not retiring. That it's only I'm going through divorce and my wife is supposed to get half of my pension. But now usebenzela department, usebenzela government.
Okay, bamba kanjalo Bhuti Patrick nangu Bhuti Manga ufuna ukuka-address.
Is it part of a divorce decree that 50% must go, because public servants make a mistake of thinking that that is determined by the GEPF.
Khuluma naye uselayinini baba.
Oh,
uPatrick.
Patrick.
Yebo.
Yebo, ndithi le 50% OT iya ku ex yakho. Is it part of the divorce decree? Which means sisivumelano enisiyenze between wena or ama lawyer akho naye ukuthi wena uzomnika 50%. Ayenzo, it does not emanate from the GEPF. Tina, we do not get involved with divorce yakho. We are told by a court through a court order or your divorce decree that you guys have agreed that you will share your pensionable estate with your ex.
Okay.
So once that has been indicated, Tina will pay umkakho or your ex 50% of what you would have accumulated up until at that stage, which means, and then Tina sithathe the iminyaka or pensionable service yakho that is equals to the money that we have paid to your ex. So if it's 50%, roughly it will mean after we have paid your ex, you will now be left with 5 years of pensionable service, because if 50% is equals to 5 years of your other pensionable service in these 10 years, so it is important when public servants are involved with divorce to agree on those terms, but also that 50%, sometimes it could be 50% from the time nishada, not necessarily 50% of everything, because it's not like in the last 10 years you've been married to her in the last 10 years. So, and those discussions takes place between yourself or your lawyers and your ex-lawyers. My says that GEPF is a court order that says who must get what.
Okay. All right, siyabonga kakhulu Bhuti Patrick. Very interesting factor there, yazi Bhuti Manga. Maybe that's another aspect that we need to look into ukuthi when it comes to ama beneficiaries and divorces and things, because maybe that's where the cloudiness also comes in. Brian, I was just asking ukuthi leya process yokulonja or a request for a recalculation, how does it work?
Members can email the administrator, the GPA, or they can call in and place in a request. What we then provide for them is a breakdown of how we got to the value that we provided for them.
Okay.
I think the other common mistake is that we can only show you the gross values.
Okay.
So sometimes people think that they've been cheated or they've been underpaid, only to realize that they hadn't taken account of the tax. So what we'll provide is the gross value, and then in the breakdown we'll show the tax that was supplied to us by SARS, and then they can then determine whether they are happy with that value or not.
Yes. More often they are happy with the explanation, because once we have taken you through how we arrived at that value,
yes,
you are then happy, because then you must go challenge USARS. And USARS is never wrong, remember.
Okay, well, we hope so. Putsmanga, we certainly hope so. So, Putsmanga, but I mean, we've got 1 minute left of the show, so I'm hoping, Uguti, maybe we can extend these discussions around Uguti Abantwana. Let's say Umuntu yashona, what are the benefits? Abantwana bathola kanjani, amalokuzana. How do you then calculate ama benefits if Umuntu ushone during his service, engaka necessarily retired?
That's going to be our next topic next month.
Siyabonga. Mbogeli, there is is where we're going to leave it with my guest today, Uput Brian Karidza, alongside Uput Manga. Sanibeni, thank you so much for staying with us on the very first topic, Lana, a very live show for 2020 more. Slagane futhi ngesikhathi esizayo lapho phela sizobe sindethele olunye udaba oluthinta wena namalungelo akho njengomthengi. From myself, Alisha Intombi Akajali, Umangcolosi and the whole team, ngithi nisale kahle babukeli.
Hallelujah.